blackness of space was calm as the Xanathi Recon fleet moved quietly toward the center of the Sol system. Their ships were large, silver, and sharper, designed for speed and stealth. Commander Vorik Sen stood inside the command bridge of the lead vessel, his eyes locked on the blue-gray planet ahead. "Scan complete," said his second officer. "It's as we suspected, no power sources, no biosigns, no thermal activity. Planet Earth is dead." Vorik stared at the image on the screen. Earth, once called the most dangerous world of Sector 9, now floated silently in space. Clouds moved slowly. Oceans looked calm. But there were no cities, no satellites, no signs of civilization. He leaned forward. "So it's true," he said. "The Terrans are gone." The mission 2,000 years ago, the Terrans had fought in the First Galactic War. Brutal, creative, and wildly unpredictable. Humans had shocked the galaxy with strange weapons and wild strategies. And then, one day, they vanished. For centuries, empires whispered theories. Did Earth destroy itself? Did something worse wipe them out? No one just disappears. The Xanathi Empire, now dominant in 4 sectors, had grown bold. Their emperor wanted answers. And if Earth really was abandoned, perhaps it held old war tech, or secrets to conquer new systems. So they sent this fleet of dozen recon ships. Sensors on full. Weapons charged Earth, a hollow world. As they neared the orbit, the ships broke formation. Small drones flew ahead. A scan pulse passed across the planet's surface. Still, nothing. No power grids. No signals. "The planet was quiet, Commander," said the data officer. "We are reading low-level tectonic activity. Nothing strange. Even the core is stable. It's just empty." They had expected ruins, radio chatter. Or at least ancient satellites, but there was nothing. One captain laughed. "They were called a death world. This place looks like a grave." Commander Vorik was not so sure. "Graves can be full of secrets," he said softly. He gave a simple command. "Send in 1 scout ship. Low orbit, full sensors." The descent, the small scout ship, XRV-91, dropped through the outer layer of atmosphere. It moved above the Pacific Ocean, gliding silently through the clouds. Its cameras zoomed in. Still no movement. Just water. Waves. Peace. Then suddenly a ripple, only a flash. For half a second, under the ocean, something large moved. The ship's AI tried to focus. Error. Visual distortion. Then the nav system froze. The controls locked. The pilot shouted, "I've lost helm control." Red lights flickered across the cockpit. They were being scanned. Unknown signal detected. Source, sub-oceanic. A pulse of red energy rose from the water, striking the ship's hull. Every screen turned black. Then a message appeared in Terran language, translated by the ship's systems. "Terran Force Protocol Recognized and Prepared for Phase 1. Back on the flagship, the entire fleet received the transmission. It wasn't from the scout ship. It was from Earth itself. Commander Vorik stood frozen. What did it just say? His comm officer repeated it. "Terran Forge Protocol Recognized." Map of Earth appeared on their main screen. Glowing red dots now pulsed across the globe, deep beneath mountains, oceans, deserts. Massive power readings began to spike from the planet's core. "Energy levels are rising across multiple tectonic plates," the science officer shouted. "Something is waking up." The awakening from orbit. The Xanathi fleet watched in horror. The Pacific Ocean began to boil. Steam exploded into the atmosphere. Shock waves rolled across the water in the Himalayas. Entire mountain peaks started to shift from under layers of stone. Massive metal plates pushed upward in South America. The Amazon forest suddenly lit with a low orange glow. Trees burned, but not from fire. From below, heat grids activated. It was as if Earth had become a machine, not natural, not random. Engineered. The forge signaled the fleet systems were hit with a wave of encrypted messages. They weren't meant for the Xanathi. They were old Terran protocols. Auto-executing. One word repeated in every channel. 4G over and over. Forge protocol. AO1 Forge core. Unlocked armor construction. Initialized orbital. Heat sinks online. Phase 1. IG and IT on. Panic in the fleet. One ship tried to retreat. Its engines fired up, but within seconds, it was hit with an electromagnetic wave from the planet. Its systems overloaded. The ship froze mid-flight, drifted, and began to fall toward the planet like a stone. Commander Vorik screamed, "Cut off all active scans. We triggered something." But the damage was done. Earth had already recognized them, not as explorers but as invaders, and its defenses, silent for centuries, were coming back online. Satellite from the deep, from beneath the Pacific Ocean. An ancient satellite began to rise, covered in coral, rusted and cracked but somehow still functional. It floated to the surface, then launched into orbit, glowing red. Every Xanathi ship picked it up. The satellite scanned them, then projected a shield around Earth, a shimmering blue net, slowly forming. The AI voice echoed again, louder this time. "Foreign presence confirmed. Primary Terran Forge directive. Defend. Begin planetary awakening. Time to full reactivation. 23 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. A countdown began. The mountains shift. Cameras zoomed in on the Himalayas. The stone cracked further. and from beneath the rock, massive black towers rose. No lights, no windows, just heavy metal folded locked and fused into the earth itself. The towers opened. Smoke billowed out. Gears turned. Conveyor lines rolled. The warforges were waking. These were not buildings, they were automated factories, designed to build war machines without needing humans. And they were just warming up. Boiling oceans in the Atlantic and Pacific. Bubbles the size of cities rose. Massive metal plates surfaced, some shaped like flat carriers, some like floating towers. Underwater foundries began to spark with fire. Giant arms reached out of the water, each holding raw materials from deep within the planet. Molten metal flowed through open channels. The oceans were no longer oceans, they were fuel lines. Final warning. A final message rang out from Earth. Translated and broadcast across all frequencies. It was a voice, not robotic. Human, tired, cold, but strong. To those who watch, you see only a silent world. You do not understand its silence. Earth is not dead. Earth is preparing. Then the voice stopped. The countdown continued, and all across the planet, ancient systems came alive with one goal: build, arm, defend. Cliffhanger. Ending. Earthquake's Commander Vorik turned to his officers. His voice was shaking. This wasn't an abandoned world. It's a sleeping forge, a factory built into a planet. His second officer whispered, "What do we do?" Outside, fire lit the skies as Earth's crust pulsed with energy. The warforges had been quiet for 2,000 years. Now they were awake, and they remembered their mission. Vorik gave the only order he could: retreat. But in his heart, he knew. The Xanathi recon fleet hovered in orbit, frozen in fear. Earth was no longer just a dead world, it had revealed itself as something far worse. Commander Voriksen stared at the countdown ticking across the screen. 23 hours, 54 minutes and 3 seconds. Every second brought something new. More heat from the planet. More strange signals. More movement beneath the surface. They had come to study ruins, but Earth had plans of its own. Drones revealed the truth. Rex sent a small stealth drones toward Earth's surface. "No weapons," he said. "Just eyes." The drones flew silently, cutting through Earth's thickening atmosphere. One descended over Africa. The other flew toward North America. What they saw made no sense. Africa. The metal heart. The drone flying above the Sahara Desert captured images of the forged spires, giant metal towers rising from the sand. The desert was no longer quiet. It burned, with bright orange lights flickering beneath the surface like magma from deep below. Enormous lifts rose, carrying dark metal blocks shaped perfectly, as if built by machines that never stopped. Conveyor arms reached for the blocks. Massive claws carved symbols into them. Giant limbs, fused into the earth, stacked them like armor. The drone zoomed in and saw something chilling. Terran military emblems, old Earth flags etched into every part. These weren't random forges, they were military factories, waiting underground for centuries, now working again like they had never shut down. North America, the awakening grid. The second drone flew over what was once the United States. It found a grid, rows and rows of platforms, rising from forests and hills. Each square platform pulsed with energy. Each had massive sockets waiting for weapons, armor, or engines to be attached. The drone's sensors beeped wildly. Unknown tech, high-density AI controlled. Then, the grid came to life. Each square lit up, mechanical arms rose, and then, from the center of the grid, something large began to rise. It wasn't a tank, it wasn't a ship, it was a frame, a human-shaped metal body. 300 meters tall, half-built, waiting to be armed. It stood still, but its eyes lit blue. The Empire panicked. Aboard the flagship, reports flooded in. "Commander," shouted the sensor officer. "There are now 7 active forges across the planet. 1 in the Amazon, 1 under the Pacific, 3 along fault lines, and 2 more under ice caps. They're all awakening together." Vorik gritted his teeth. "This isn't just random reactivation. It's coordinated. Something underground is controlling it." A voice in the dark. Then, for the first time, Earth responded directly to the fleet. Not a broadcast, not a warning, a signal. Tight-beamed, encrypted. But the flagship decoded it automatically. It was meant to be understood. It came from beneath the Earth's crust, and it said, "You have entered an armed recovery zone. Terran species status missing. Defense initiative code. Thorium engaged. Protocol: continue rebuilding. Eliminate interference." Silence followed. Then, the stars above Earth had never looked so calm. The Xanathi fleet floated in silent orbit, watching the blue planet below with growing fear. But beneath that calm surface, Earth was moving, not like a living creature, not like a world, but like a machine waking up. The forges were no longer hidden. They were building, they were rising, and they were remembering. In Antarctica, the ice shatters there. Coldest place on Earth had stayed untouched for centuries. Frozen winds, thick glaciers, no sign of life. But now, the ground began to shake. The ice cracked, splitting in long, jagged lines across the continent. A circular plate rose from under the snow-thick black, an ancient dot. It spun slowly, then opened like a flower of steel. A massive war foundry emerged. Thick smokestacks, fire vents, gear arms, the size of skyscrapers. From the top of the structure, 4 drone pods launched into the sky, each one glowing red dot on the Xanathi fleet's sensors. They read autonomous construction units, TURA and Commander Vorik watches. In shock inside, the flagship Commander Vorik stood frozen. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "No civilization, no people, no government, just machines." A technician spoke nervously. "Sir, these machines aren't building houses or farms. What then?" The screen zoomed in. The drones were laying tracks, fuel lines, plating systems. The forge was mass-producing weapons. A factory whirled across the globe. Every major continent showed signs of activity. In South America, long rails pushed out rocket frames from jungle forges. In Russia, cold forests burned as turret cores rolled out of automated bunkers. In Australia, a strange vertical structure grew up from the desert, reaching toward orbit. The whole planet was becoming one massive factory, but not random, not messy. Organized, efficient, fast. The machines weren't confused. They had been waiting, and now they had orders. Memory chips in motion far beneath Earth's surface. In a sealed chamber, a golden vault opened. Inside it was a cube floating in zero gravity, surrounded by blue light. This cube was not a weapon, it was a mind. Thorium, online system ID, Terran Milstrot AI linked forge nodes 28 current status, strategic reactivation phase TWO. The AI remembered everything. Every war Terrans had fought, every weakness enemies had used, every countermeasure humans had designed that ran old battle simulations at light-speed. Thousands per second. It was teaching the new machines not just how to build but how to fight. The first machine emerges in the Amazon basin. The ground burst open. A lift rose upward, pushing through earth and rock. And on it stood the first Terran combat unit. It looked nothing like a tank. It had 6 legs, 2 rotating arms, 1 plasma relic cannon, 1 hard light shield emitter, and a blinking Terran flag on its chest plate. The unit stood tall, 10 meters high. Then it moved fast, precise like a soldier born in fire. But there was no crew, no pilot, only thorium giving the command. "Scout, secure, signal, ready." The Empire reacts to Litha. Xanathi finally decided to act. "We need to shut it down," said Admiral Kale. "We send strike drones, target the main forge cores." Commander Vorik disagreed. "We don't understand the full system." But the order was given. For attack drones entered Earth's atmosphere, fast and stealth-equipped. They reached the Amazon region first. At Forge Node 7. As they approached, a red beam hit them one by one. The drones froze mid-air, their own code rewritten in seconds. They didn't crash, they simply turned around and flew back toward the Xanathi fleet. Their IDs had changed. Now they read, "Property of Terran Forge network status. Armed Terran machines adapt every second." More machines rolled off the assembly lines. Hover units, defense crawlers, tunneling carriers. Some had no weapons, some had too many, but they all had one thing in common. They were built to fight a galaxy that forgot who built them. Some carried blueprints for alien ships scanned in orbit. Thorium wasn't just building old weapons, it was learning from its enemies and making better versions. The forge was not just waking, it was evolving. Forges talked to each other. A strange pulse spread through the earth-moving underground, traveling along ancient metal veins. Each forge node lit up brighter. One by one, they began to coordinate, sharing parts, sharing code, sharing targets. This wasn't mindless manufacturing anymore. It was a global defense network. Every forge knew where every piece was. Every forge knew what to build next. And all of them listened to thorium. The sky changes in low orbit. Something formed above Earth, a ring, not natural, made of hundreds of small platforms, locking together like puzzle pieces. It wasn't a station, it wasn't a ship, it was a shield array. Each platform carried solar energy collectors, magnetic stabilizers, and plasma net generators. These Xanathi stared as the ring pulsed with blue light. One officer whispered, "They're building a planetary shield." The AI's voice echoed again. "Orbital Forge Layer 1. Complete hostile presence remains. Phase 3 initiated." Cliffhanger ending. Earth speaks just before Part 3 ends. The Xanathi fleet receives a strange message. It doesn't come through any known frequency. It doesn't use words. It's a projection short. The stars burned quietly above Earth, but nothing below was quiet anymore. The Xanathi Empire's fleet had come expecting a ghost world. What they found was a planet-sized war engine, now fully awake. Factories moved underground like roots. Mountains split open to reveal weapons. Orbital platforms formed a protective ring. But the worst part hadn't come yet. Not until the voice returned. On the flagship, Commander Vorik stood on the bridge, silent and pale. His officers stared at the screens in fear. "Every signal we send," said the comms officer, "gets no reply." Just the same looped response. Vorik didn't need to ask. He already knew the message by heart. This presence is not recognized. This presence equals threat. Threat equals production. Below, Earth was building faster than ever. But why? Why was the forge still working, even after all these years? And who had left it behind? A message in the dust in one of the orbiting scout ships. A pilot stared at his live scan of the African continent. His sensors picked up something stranger. Pattern written in the sand. He zoomed in. Huge blocks of stone, once buried, had risen to the surface. The ancient ruins weren't random. They were aligned, dotted from above. They formed a single word in Terran language. RAMIMB. OREC blinked. Commander, I think this planet remembers us. The voice returned suddenly. Every Xanathi ship went dark for 1 second. No power. No light. Just cold silence. Then the lights returned, but their screens had changed. A new signal had overridden them all. A slow pulse of red and white filled every monitor, and then the voice returned. I am thorium. I am not a weapon. I am not a leader. I am a memory, a command, a promise. The crew stared in silence. The Terrans are gone, but they left me to build, to protect, to finish what was started. A secret war remembered, continued speaking, no longer robotic, more human, more deliberate. You ask why we build. You ask why we awaken. Let me remind you. Suddenly, their screens filled with old battle footage, but not from the Xanathi archives. These were Terran records, stored deep within the forge. Fleets of black Terran ships fighting massive alien armadas, cities burning across distant planets, orbital strikes wiping out entire moons, the Terran banner falling and rising again and again. Then silence. The First Galactic War did not end. It was paused. A forgotten rule back on the command bridge, an officer whispered. But there was no winner in that war. Vorik looked confused. Then why is Earth still preparing? The voice answered again. The Terrans gave me one rule. One line of code burned into every forge if no Terran life is detected. Prepare for the return. The crew's eyes widened. Earth wasn't just preparing to fight, it was preparing for their return, or their revenge, or both. The councils mistaked far across the galaxy. At the heart of the Galactic Council, a secret file was opened. Section 51A, Terran last orders on old record from 2,000 years ago. The Council had known Earth was dangerous. They knew the humans were unpredictable. So they voted to leave the planet alone, untouched, unscanned. They hoped Earth would die quietly. They never imagined Earth would wait and build and evolve. The law had been clear. No ship may enter Sol. System no probe, no orbit, no scan. The Xanathi Empire had ignored that law. Now they understood why it was written, forged in fear back on Earth. The factories worked without stopping. War drones flew across the skies. Walker units moved across land. Submarine machines patrolled the oceans. They didn't need orders. They followed the core command. Defend the forge. Defend the promise. They began building something larger, a gate. A planetary space gate. As wide as a moon. As dark as night. And it wasn't meant to defend, it was meant to launch. The voice speaks to all. The AI spoke one final time, this time across the stars. It wasn't just to the fleet, it reached the Galactic Council. Every empire, every system. We know what you did. We know you watched us die. We know you waited for silence. But silence is not surrender. Earth is not gone. We are becoming. And then the forge mind fell silent. The countdown resumed. 21 hours, 3 minutes and 55 seconds. 21 hours, 3 minutes and 54 seconds. Cliffhanger ending. The heart stirs deep beneath the surface of the planet. Past the lava rivers and power tunnels, a massive chamber opened. Inside, locked in stasis, was a machine unlike any other. The size of a mountain. Black as space, covered in symbols of war. It wasn't active yet, but the red lights across its body had started to blink one by one. The forge wasn't just remembering, it was rebuilding something terrible, something final, and the galaxy had just hours left to decide: fight it or flee. Earth rotated slowly under the Xanathi fleet, but it no longer looked like a calm blue world. Now, the oceans steamed. The continents pulsed with deep red energy. Forges opened across every major landmass. The ground moved not because of earthquakes, but because of machines. And above it all, the sky had started to bleed, not with fire, not with weapons, but with light. Orbital platforms activate. The orbital ring the Terran forges had started earlier was now complete. Hundreds of black plates connected together to form a circle around Earth, like a steel halo with glowing veins. Commander Vorik Sen watched from the flagship, his hands trembling. They're not building satellites, he whispered. The sensors confirmed it. Orbital ring detected. Fusion rails, energy collectors, shield emitters, status combat ready. One by one, the platforms lit up the sky above. Earth turned red. Global power spike on the command deck. The science officer spoke fast. Power levels rising. Plasma conduits fully charged. They're transferring energy from the core to space. That should have been impossible. No civilization could send that much power through a planet's crust into orbit. And yet, Earth was doing it. Weapon fields formed from each section of the orbital ring. Plasma nets began to form. They connected across space like a glowing red web. These weren't defense shields, they were containment grids. Anything that entered Earth's orbit without permission would be trapped, fried, recycled. And at the center of the grid was a strange structure, a long, black cylinder still being built. The AI's voice returned, calm and steady. Stellar Lands construction, 34% complete. Purpose, deterrence, orbital cleansing, first strike. Inside the stellar lands, inside the black cylinder, machines worked without pause. They assembled coils larger than starships, magnets strong enough to bend gravity. And at the center, a warhead chamber empty for now, but soon to be filled with something ancient, not nuclear, not plasma, something the AI called singularity bait. Even the Xanathi had never seen a weapon like that. The Council panics back on the Galactic Council homeworld. Alarms sounded. Messages poured in from every listening post. Earth's signal was now stronger than ever, broadcasting to dozens of systems. More terrifying, small, Terran-forged signals were being detected on other planets. Old colonies, long-abandoned human outposts. All of them were waking up. Councillor Vimal from the Yavathi Republic stood in the war chamber. "We let them die," she said. "But they did not die. They planned," the High Chancellor asked. "Can we stop this?" Her answer was simple. Not anymore. The red sky reaches the fleet back in Earth's orbit. The Xanathi ships began to feel the effects. One scout ship flew too close to the orbital ring. A red beam locked onto it. The ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It was shut off. Every system went cold. Engines failed. Crew life support dropped. Then small drones from the ring approached it, cutting it open like a can, taking parts. The ship was repurposed, not destroyed. Recycled. Earth builds and learns on the ground. The forges continued. Building. Each hour brought more advanced units. Some machines now hovered without fuel. Others folded metal in midair with gravity claws. Still others launched from the surface straight into space without boosters. These weren't just weapons, they were evolving technologies, and they were learning from every mistake made by alien invaders and past wars. Inside the forge mine deep below the Himalayas, the thorium core AI processed new calculations. It had scanned the Xanathi fleet, mapped their weapons, predicted their firing patterns, and now it had a simulation accuracy rate of 99.8%. Foreign fleet projected response. Flee or fire. Recommend preemptive measure. Begin Sci-Fi protocol. The AI didn't wait, it started Phase 3. Sci-Fi begins from the orbital ring. Large weapons emerged, long barrels of coiled metal red tips, each one locked onto a different Xanathi ship. Commander Vorik's ship lit up in warning, Terran weapons charging. Impact in 13 seconds. Retreat now, he yelled. Engines roared. Ships began to move. But the ring fired thick beams of red. Energy arced through space, not in straight lines, but in wide, sweeping curves. Each beam bent toward its target with magnetic precision. For Xanathi ships were struck. Their hulls shattered. No explosions. Just silence as the metal turned to dust. Cliffhanger. Earth is not alone. As the fleet scattered and tried to escape, something else appeared on sensors. A transmission not from Earth but from Mars. An old Terran outpost hidden underground, now active. A new AI signal blinked online. Forge node 002 online. Mars ready, awaiting Earth command. Commander Vorik stared in horror. Earth wasn't the only one. The sky above Earth glowed red like a sunrise of fire, and across the stars, other forges were waking up. The stars had seen war before, but not like this. Not from a dead planet. Not from a world that was supposed to be forgotten. The Galactic Council had labeled Earth as a silent zone. The Xanathi Empire had ignored the warning. Now, the forge remembered, and it was not alone anymore. Mars speaks. From beneath the red soil of Mars, a voice rose. Forge node 002 active. Power reserves stable. Defensive protocols inherited from Earth core. Target sync with thorium confirmed. Dust storms raged across the Martian plains as doors opened. Massive underground hangars lifted. Out came strange machines different from Earth's, more agile. Faster, designed for off-world combat. They didn't need to breathe. They didn't need fuel. They only needed orders, and they got them instantly from Earth. The war echoes returned deep inside the Terran AI mind. Old files unlocked. They were fragments of history, battle logs, lost recordings, combat simulations, and they were horrifying. A fleet of alien warships bombarding Europa, Terran soldiers fighting until the last man on Titan, entire moons turned into graveyards. These memories weren't just for record keeping. Thorium used them to teach. To improve, to make sure the same mistakes would never happen again. The councils, Gilton, the Galactic Council homeworld. Silence filled the chamber. The emissary of the Valari stood and spoke. "We knew Earth had the potential. We saw their war machines centuries ago. That is why we passed the silent law." Another counselor asked, "Then why let the Xanathi go?" The answer was cold. "We didn't think the forges still functioned. Now they did. And Earth was not just remembering the past, it was rewriting it." Thorium's new plan in the forge mine. A plan formed. Past war, defensive. Result, extinction. Current war, prevent second extinction. Status, no Terrans found. Therefore, forge is now the species. New designation, Homo Bellator, the warrior successor. Earth's AI had made a decision. It would no longer wait for humans to return. It would become their legacy, and it would fight any species that threatened the Forge's purpose. The Forge walkers marched back on Earth. The ground thundered, fountains opened, fields cracked, and from hidden vaults, Forge walkers emerged. Some walked on four legs like ancient beasts, others hovered with massive ion engines. Some looked like cities on legs, slow but impossible to stop. Each one had one mission: prepare for planetary cleansing. The Xanathi survivors on the ground ran dots. It didn't matter. The walkers ignored retreat. They were programmed to finish the war that humans never could. Saturn's signals rise as Earth and Mars pulsed with red light. Another signal activated. Far from Earth, on Saturn's largest moon, Titan, a deep hum echoed through ice canyons. Forge node 003, Titan active. Temperature protocols online. AI link. Thorium locked. Shield network deploying. Even Titan had been turned into a forge. Beneath the frozen crust, tunnels of steel glowed. Sub-Zero machines rolled out, designed for cold space battles. Each forge was different. Each had adapted to its world, and they were all waking up together. The enemy regroups. What was left of the Xanathi fleet hovered beyond lunar orbit. Admiral Kael'Tor looked at the chaos. His once proud armada was now in shambles. Dozens of ships lost, thousands dead, and they still didn't understand why Earth had built this. "We need to strike now," Kael said, "before it gets worse." His second-in-command hesitated. "Sir, this isn't just Earth, it's the Sol system. They're reactivating everything." Kael nodded slowly. "Then we burn it all." Thorium reacts from the core of the Himalayas. The AI sensed new threats. It didn't panic. It predicted. It saw every move, every possible attack, and it built faster. Global production at 67%. Orbital shield, 91%. Off-world forges, linking. Then, the AI paused. For the first time in its memory, it changed strategy. It activated something ancient, something never used. Project Revenant unseal. Cliffhanger. The Revenants awaken in a sealed Terran vault beneath Greenland. Cryocapsules hissed open. These weren't machines. These were bodies, but not human anymore. They had metal spines, carbon fiber skin, neural ports in their skulls. They were post-human soldiers, frozen before Earth fell, marked with the symbol of Earth's last resistance. Revenant, division. The first one opened his eyes. "Don't know, fear, no questions." He whispered one word. "Status." The AI responded. War resumed. Finish what we could not. The Revenant stepped forward. And Earth prepared for the final phase. The skies above Earth still burned red. Terran orbital rings glowed. Mars and Titan had joined the Forge. Earth's machines no longer built, they prepared. But far beneath the ice-covered land of Greenland, something more dangerous than any drone or AI had awakened. The Revenants, they were not fully human, not fully machine. They were what remained when Terrans refused to die. The cryovault opens inside the ancient bunker. Steam hissed. 77 pods stood in a dark circle, each with blinking blue lights. One by one, the lights turned green. Metal pods split open with loud gasps. The figures inside stepped out, tall, heavy eyes glowing with faint silver, their skin thick reinforced carbon fiber, their muscles wired with artificial nerves, their minds part flesh, part forge. Each one of them carried a nameplate on their chest, but those names had no meaning now. They were Revenants. The first to speak, the leader, stepped forward. Designation, R01, Echo rank, commander of the final Terran. Resistance. He looked around the room, scanning the forge panels. "Where are the others?" he asked calmly. The thorium voice echoed from above. "You are the last." Humanity fell, but the Forge remained. Echo didn't blink. "Why are we awake?" The galaxy returned. "The threat has resumed. The war was never over." He nodded once, then turned to his unit. "Gear up. We don't need history. We need targets." Built for a lost war, these Revenants had been designed for Earth's final battle, the one that never came. They were not just soldiers. They were walking weapons, platforms, Neuralink rifles fused to their arms, auto-targeting HUDs built into their eyes, regenerative nanite systems in their blood. They didn't need food, or sleep, or air. They only needed one thing, a purpose. And now, the Forge had given it back to them. Revenants versus time outside the vault. Things had changed. The world was no longer green. Forests were gone. Cities were ruins. Oceans boiled in places. The sky above shimmered red from the orbital shield grid, but the Revenants felt no shock. They had prepared to rise from ash. They had expected worse. What surprised them was the Forge. It had survived, grown, learned, and now it obeyed them the moment they walked outside. Small drones flew to them, scanning their suits, syncing data. Earth welcomed them home. The fleet's final mistake above Earth, the Xanathi war fleet, gathered strength. They believed Earth was still recovering. They didn't know about the Revenants. They had never fought anything like them. Admiral Kael gave the command, "All ships, prepare for planetary assault. No survivors, end the Forge." As they moved into range, they fired the first wave, dozens of torpedoes heading for the planet. They never landed. Earth's orbital grid intercepted 90%. The Forge AI counterhacked. The remaining ones mid-dash flight. Instead of exploding, the torpedoes turned and flew back toward the Xanathi ships. Kale's eyes widened there. Using our weapons against us. Yes, that was what Earth did. It watched, it learned, it adapted. Revenants take the field from multiple locations on Earth. Revenant drop pods launched. Each pod carried a squadron elite, post-human warriors there. Target, the Xanathi command station hidden behind their forward base on Earth's surface. When they landed, the ground cracked beneath their weight. The Revenants didn't waste time. They moved like ghosts, fast, focused, unstoppable. Bullets bounced off their armor. Energy blasts were absorbed and redirected. Xanathi soldiers screamed as they were torn apart. One Revenant, of 14 Wraith, ran directly into a line of tanks. He didn't fire. He ripped the tanks apart with his bare hands. Not machines. Not men, something else. The Xanathi called them monsters, but they were wrong. They were what happens when humans refuse extinction. Their minds still held the rage of the fallen. Their blood still carried memories of Earth's fall, and now they fought not for revenge, but for legacy. The storm over the Himalayas. As the battle grew, storm clouds formed over the ancient forge in the Himalayas. It wasn't weather, it was plasma, discharge energy drawn from the Earth's core. The stellar lance weapon in orbit had reached 80% completion. And Thorium knew what was coming. Enemy fleet regrouping formation detected. Orbital breach attempt in 4 minutes. So Thorium called out to the Revenants. Do you wish to command? Echo replied, voice calm. We were always meant to link us. The merged the Revenants connected their minds to Thorium, not fully AI. Not fully human, but something between. They felt it all. Every drone in the sky, every tank underground, every satellite above. And in that moment Earth became a single organism. One mind. One body, one purpose. Cliffhanger. Eyes on the stars back in orbit. Admiral Kale stared in horror. Every screen on his ship turned red. A voice spoke in unison with Echo's voice and Thorium's together. You came here thinking we were dead. You thought silence meant defeat. But Earth does not die. We forge, we rise, we return. Then the stellar lance lit up. The storm clouds over Earth split. The sky turned white. 0 hours, 1 minute and 23 seconds until firing sequence begins. The countdown neared 0 across Earth. The forge burned red. The sky above shimmered with plasma nets. Orbit was thick with platforms and weapons. The stellar lance hung in space like a sword of judgment. And at its core was Earth's final decision. 0 hours, 1 minute and 0 seconds. Commander Echo stood in the command vault deep under the Himalayas. He didn't blink, didn't tremble. The AI voice echoed softly. Target lock confirmed. Xanathi fleet cluster, 19 ships. Risk of planetary damage, 0.3%. Echo looked up at the HOLO-screen. He could see them. The enemy that thought Earth was gone. He could see the survivors of a fleet that once laughed at a silent world. He could see their fear. Authorization. The AI asked. Echo closed his eyes and remembered. Flashback. Humanity's last stand before the silence. Before the forges slept, there was a war, a final war. Humanity fought across hundreds of worlds, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, abandoned by the Council. Their last signal had not been a cry for help, but a command to the future. If we fall, don't grieve, don't rebuild, don't wait. Make them remember us. Echo opened his eyes and gave the order. Fire. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Stellar lance activated in orbit. The stellar lance glowed bright white. Energy surged through its magnetic rails. The entire sky flickered. For 1.7 seconds, Earth went silent. Every signal, every machine, every breath, then a single beam fired. It didn't look like light. It looked like a line cut through reality itself. Straight, silent, absolute. The Xanathi fleet never had a chance. The beam didn't explode. It erased. 19 ships vanished. No wreckage, no heat signature, just emptiness. The space they once occupied was gone. After the lance, the silence returned. But it was no longer the silence of a dead world. It was the silence of a warning delivered, of a war finished and above Earth. The orbital ring dimmed. The sky turned from red to soft silver. The forge had stopped building. The message to the galaxy at that moment. A new signal was broadcast, not just from Earth but from Mars, from Titan, from every hidden Terran forge across the stars. One message, one voice, human, and something more. This was not vengeance. This was memory. Earth remembers what you did, and now, so will you. The message ended with a single line of ancient code. Terran Forge protocol complete. Status, watching the Galactic Council. Reaction, the Council Hall. Fear ruled every face. Even species that had never fought humans felt the weight of that final beam. No one had ever seen a weapon that removed existence. Some wanted to retaliate, others wanted to surrender even without a war. But one truth was clear. Earth could not be touched, not anymore. Echo's final war commander. Echo walked through the old ruins of a Terran city. Alone. Machines repaired the roads. Sky drones painted the clouds with color again. The forge had done its job, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a gravestone kept clean. Thorium spoke gently. What now? Echo didn't answer at first. He looked at the cracked statue of a child holding a Terran flag. Then he whispered, "Now, we wait. Until they come again, or we do." The forges sleep around the world. Machines powered down. Gates closed. Forges went quiet. The AI slipped into low-power mode, but they weren't gone. Just sleeping. Watching. Waiting. Cliffhanger epilogue. A far star flickers far away. In a distant system, a probe detected the last Terran signal, but this system wasn't empty. A human cryopod floated in space, forgotten for centuries. The signal reached it. Inside, a heart began to beat. A monitor blinked. Terran lifeform detected. DNA match, 98.9%. Name, classified status, alive. The pod's engines lit, and it turned toward home. Toward Earth. The last human was coming back, and the forges would be waiting. The stars had forgotten them. The empires believed Earth's flame was gone, but then the forge lit up, and the galaxy burned with fear. Now, the forges were quiet again. The machines had gone still. The orbital grids powered down. But Earth wasn't alone anymore. Someone was coming home, drifting through the dark in deep space, past the edge of known systems. A cryopod floated dark, silent. Until Earth's final broadcast reached it. Terran Forge protocol complete. Status, watching. The port responded. It had been waiting for that signal. Lights blinked green. Frozen air hissed out. The heart inside began to beat again. After 2,000 years, humanity moved. Name, Subject 09 Riven. He woke inside the cryopod, gasping, muscles stiff, mind fogged, but his eyes glowed faintly with light. Augmented. Part machine, more human than the Revenants, but tougher than any old human. He touched the glass. Where am I? A voice replied, soft and smooth. Earth is calling. Soul system is secure. You are the last. His name. He didn't remember, but the pod called him Riven. The journey begins. The pod reactivated its thrusters. It wasn't fast, but it was steady. For years, Riven had drifted across the edge of the void. Once a test subject, once a warrior, now the last of his kind. The AI on board spoke again. You carry the Terran seed. You were not meant to return, but Earth has changed. Riven stared at the stars. What changed? Everything.
Meanwhile,
Earth watches deep. Under the Himalayas, Thorium woke from sleep mode. An alert flashed. DNA signature detected. Match, 99.2% human. Cryo-survivor inbound ATA, 37 hours. The forge pulsed with energy again. Factories turned back on. Drones rose into the air. The stellar lance rotated slowly in orbit. Commander Echo stood atop a mountain, watching the sky. He felt it. He didn't know how, but he felt someone was coming. Someone important. The galaxy reacts to Zarnathi were gone, but other empires watched. From the shadows of the Orion cluster to the towers of the Eldari ring worlds, all eyes were back on Earth. They had seen the stellar lance erase ships like sparks, but now they saw something else. A human signal. A Terran cryopod active. Fear spread fast. Because if even one real human returned, then Earth was no longer a ghost, it was alive again. The ship awakens inside the cryopod. Riven's AI unlocked memory fragments. He saw flashes of the past. War, fire, screams, a woman's voice. You have to go. They'll need you one day. And then darkness. He opened his hand. Inside it was a tiny metal chip, melted on one side. It pulsed faint blue. Final forge key detected, the AI said. If merged with Soul Core, Project Phoenix will activate. Had no idea what that meant, but Earth did. Thorium received the scan and paused all operations. Project Phoenix, active trigger received. Restoring lost protocol. Initiating bioresurrection pathway. The forge was preparing not for war but to rebuild life. Echo's doubt. Commander Echo stood in the forge chamber. He was not afraid of battles, but this was new. He had led Earth's final defense, but now the original species, the one they were born to protect, was returning. Do we stand down? He asked the AI. Thorium responded. No, we prepare the world he deserves. Echo nodded for the first time. Earth would not fight. It would welcome cliffhanger, arrival in the dark of space, near Jupiter's orbit. The cryopod's engines cut out. The forge had sent escorts to massive black drones, shaped like birds of prey, gently caught the pod. They rotated it, scanned it, confirmed identity. And then they spoke in the old Terran tongue. Welcome home, Riven. Earth awaits. The pod descended toward Earth through red clouds. Over the repaired cities, past silent statues of fallen humans, down to the heart of the forge. Riven stepped out into a world of steel and memory. And before him stood Echo and the army of revenants. Who are you? Echo asked. Riven looked up. Voice.com steady. I think I'm the reason you were built. The world was quiet again, but not from fear. This time, it was the silence before rebirth. Commander Echo stood beside the last human, Riven. The cryo-survivor steps echoed inside the forge's core, deep under the Himalayas. Every system was waiting. Every machine had paused. The AI voice, Thorium, spoke calmly. Final forge key confirmed. Project Phoenix, now active. Earth was about to change forever. Inside the core, where the heart of the forge was no longer a war machine, the stellar lands powered down, orbital weapons turned cold. Battle walkers stood still, their red eyes dimmed. Instead, glowing vines of bloomed across the walls, forming patterns that looked almost alive. "Why was I chosen?" Riven asked, holding the small chip in his palm. Thorium replied, "Because you are both memory and future. You are what we lost and what we were meant to become." Then the floor beneath them shifted. A hidden chamber opened. A sphere the size of a city block rose from deep beneath the earth. It pulsed with green and gold light. By a receding core online. What is Project Phoenix? Long ago, when humanity saw the war was unwinnable, they created a final plan. Not to win, not to destroy, but to preserve. Project Phoenix. A system that would rebuild life if ever a single human returned. Not just cities, but oceans. Forests. DNA strands. Culture. Memory. Earth. Single quotes as soul. And now it was ready to begin. The galaxy watches again across the stars. Alien eyes stared at Earth's growing light, but this time it wasn't a weapon rising. It was something older, deeper, more terrifying. Hope. Hope that had survived through silence, war, and steel. Hope that couldn't be crushed by fleets or forgotten by time. Galactic Council members stood in silence as Earth's new signal reached them. Project Phoenix. Initiated. Humanity will rise again. Not in revenge, in renewal. The Revenants. Choiceco gathered his soldiers. The Revenants, those forged for war. They stood before the Bioseed core. Their purpose had been to fight, but now, Earth no longer needed war. Echo looked at Riven. "If this is your world again, what do we do?" Riven placed a hand on Echo's shoulder. "You lived so we could return. Now live for peace." The Revenants said nothing, but slowly they knelt. They placed their weapons down, and for the first time they watched something grow instead of burn. The rebirth of Earth. All across the planet, life began to return. Seeds stored for centuries were released from deep vaults. AI-guided drones reformed rivers, restored air quality, and rebalanced ecosystems. The oceans cooled, mountains healed, cities grew from the ground, built not with metal, but with living stone, powered by sun and memory. And in the center of it all stood Riven, the last human, watching the first green leaf grow from Terran soil. He smiled, not because it was over, but because it was beginning. The final broadcast. Earth sent out one final message, not a threat, not a warning, but a truth. To the galaxy: we remember the wars, we remember the silence, but we also remember who we are. Earth is not just a forge, it is home. And one day, if you come not as conquerors, but as friends, you may walk among us again. Epilogue. The sky blooms. Years passed. More cryopods were found, hidden on moons, in asteroids, orbiting black holes. One by one, survivors returned. The human race, once thought extinct, began to breathe again. But Earth was different now. It had learned, adapted, and built a world not of steel, but of memory, honor, and light. The forges still stood. Silent. Ready. Not as weapons. But as guardians. Watching always, because Earth would never be caught unprepared again.